I seen it, but it's like I mean that's a little nice. That's nice resources. I feel like people who want some peanuts. I feel like because I go to restaurants at times and I see peanuts like a big box of peanuts. Five Guys, if I'm not mistaken. Texas Roadhouse. They got location where they got peanuts at, but I'm just like it's not bad to have. I feel like people
because
want
you
peanuts.
like peanut butter.
Okay, you see.
I'm gonna go get you a barrel of peanuts.
Nah, whoa! I don't want a barrel of peanuts. You could do a big barrel of peanut butter jars.
I already have.
Central.
What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchet REACT, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we're back with another American reaction. Super excited about this video. If you're new to us and we're new to you, make sure you scroll down,
hit that subscribe button,
and turn on the post notification bell
because we're on the road to 200K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, alright? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Hey Geography Peeps, so we're back in Africa and you came just at the right time because as of the upload of this video, Burkina Faso is going through a huge transition and find out why in about 3, 2, 1.
It's time to learn geography
now! Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbie. So Burkina Faso is one of those African countries you've probably heard of that has a lot of drama going on. However, there's a whole world of underlying fascination and culture awaiting for you once you observe things a little closer. That being said, let's dissect the flag. The flag has two equally sized horizontal bands of red and green with a yellow star resting in the middle. These colors are the Pan-African colors to symbolize the breaking away and unity of post-colonial nations in Africa. Adopted in 1984, the red symbolizes the revolution, even though the guy leading that revolution would eventually get assassinated by another guy leading another revolution. And the green represents the abundance of agricultural and natural resources, which I'm not trying to be offensive, Burkina Faso, but that's kind of not really true, but if you say so. And finally, the yellow star represents the guiding light of the revolution. All right, that's pretty much it. Moving on. Okay, first of all, Burkina Faso is arguably the country with the world's most interesting sounding names. I mean, you have places like Burum Burum, like a car, and then you have places like Gorom Gorom, like a Swedish car. Gorom, I don't know. There's a place called Rambo and Bobo Dioulasso. A lot of these names come from tribal words, and the cool thing is that Burkina Faso is actually really good at intermixing its ethnic influences pretty well. In fact, the name Burkina Faso comes from the More word Burkina, meaning honorable people, and Faso, which is the Dioula word, meaning fatherland. The usage of different languages in the name symbolizes the unity between the many ethnic groups. It would kind of be like if Canada called itself La Pays Parlementaire Fédérale Nation of Canada. Oh, même pas un rêve, il neigera en enfer avant que ça arrive. Sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves, and we haven't even shown that Earth zoom-in motion graphic thing that we always show. Can we do that now? Ah, great, here we go. Okay, Burkina Faso is landlocked, located in West Africa, surrounded by 6 other countries, and is divided into 13 administrative regions, each with its own governor. The capital is, get this, the name of the capital is Ouagadougou. I just can't. That is just, I love, it sounds like a dance move. Oh yeah, I gotta teach you guys geography or something like that. Burkina Faso's old name actually used to be Upper Volta, or French Upper Volta when it was part of the French Empire, named after the 3 Volta rivers, the black, the red, and the white Voltas, which also would explain the former flag. You might ask, well, if it was called Upper Volta, then where was Lower Volta? Was it Ghana? To be frank, no, there never really was in Lower Volta. However, all 3 Volta rivers do kind of drain into Lake Volta in Ghana, so I guess in an unofficial sense, Ghana is kind of like the Lower Volta. When it was under the French Empire, Burkina Faso was kind of utilized as like a bridge nation and wasn't really exploited much for its natural resources. The country was pretty much targeted solely for the purpose of giving direct access from the coastal colonies to the desert holdings like Mali and Niger. Yes, people, that's how you pronounce it. Niger, not Niger, not Niger, and definitely not that offensive word that I know you're all thinking about and getting all 13-year-old Japanese schoolgirl giggly about, Bob Saget. It's pronounced Niger. It's kind of weird because 19 provinces in Burkina Faso have have like this weird fusion contiguous territory agreement with Mali and Niger under this thing called the Liptako Gourma Authority, which basically administers the resources and power cooperations between the peoples of the entire region of all three countries. It's kind of like, we're all from three different countries, but let's pretend like that doesn't really matter in this one specific region. Deal? Deal. Otherwise, Burkina Faso has quite a few noticeable places that have their own cultural flair. Typically, towns will have their own contrasting architectural style based off of the tribes that are predominantly inhabiting that area, like the thick red clay houses of Kumi, the elaborately embellished pattern houses of Tiabele, the spiky mud mosque of Bobo Dioulasso. Otherwise, Ouagadougou has its own taste in modern buildings and offices, but with a dry red clay African ambiance that gives its distinct cultural character. Want to know another thing that gives Burkina Faso its character? Burkina Faso's landscape plays a huge role in how people live and engage with each other on a daily basis. First of all, as a landlocked country, Burkina Faso obviously has no access to the sea, so instead relies on its system of rivers and lakes for irrigation. Remember how we talked about the Sahel in the Benin video? Well, the northern part of Burkina Faso is kind of like entirely in it. This means that the northern region of Burkina Faso, appropriately named the Sahel region, is the driest part in the entire country and has a desert-like atmosphere. The further south you go, the greener and wetter it gets until you are literally in humid forest zones. In general though, one thing that you can kind of expect in Burkina Faso is a lot of red dirt. The soil in many parts has a noticeably dusty red hue that kind of gives the entire country a rustic African appeal. Unfortunately, as a whole, Burkina Faso doesn't really have many internal natural resources, there's no oil, and many of the cash crops aren't really extensively grown. Despite the fragile soil conditions, about 80% of the population lives on subsistence agriculture. In fact, despite plagues of locusts, desertification, and drought, about 3/4 of the people still live in the countryside and prefer agricultural lifestyles. It's just a thing they do and have been doing for centuries. The French colonial administrator R. de la Vignette wrote in 1946 that we came from industrialized Europe where factories are joyless affairs and found people who work to music. Typically, drummers still accompany farmers in Burkina Faso to this very day. The most common crops distributed domestically.
That's one thing that we all have in common.
I feel that.
And even though we are not like, dang, I lost my thought. But I do know, like, we still cling to music. We still write to music. Like, I just feel like music is just embedded in the diaspora.
Yeah, we was definitely born with rhythm.
Yes.
Yes, like, we know a good beat, like.
And the beat of the drum.
For real.
And internationally are peanuts, millet, sorghum. However, the economy is heavily centralized around work to music. Typically, drummers still accompany farmers in Burkina Faso to this very day. The most common crops distributed domestically and internationally are peanuts, millet, sorghum. However, the economy is heavily...
Peanuts better than sorghum? Sorghum? What is sorghum? I'm not sure what sorghum is. I seen it, but it's like, I mean, that's a little nice. That's nice resources. I feel like people who want some peanuts. I feel like, because I go to restaurants at times and I see peanuts, like a big box of peanuts, Five Guys, if I'm not mistaken. Texas Roadhouse. They got, location where they got peanuts at, but I'm just like, it's not bad to have. I feel like people want
because you
peanuts.
like peanut butter.
Okay, you see.
I'm going to go get you a barrel of peanuts.
Nah, whoa. I don't want a barrel of peanuts. You could do a big barrel of peanut butter jars.
I already have.
centralized around cotton and gold. Burkinabe cotton is some of the cheapest cotton you can buy on the market right now and comes in very good quality. Gold found in various mines scattered throughout the country respectively make up an almost equal share of an export sector, and together collectively gold and cotton alone make up about 70% of all exports. Nonetheless, Burkina Faso still has a few impressive geological tricks up its sleeve. One of the most recognizable natural landmarks of this country would be the Sindou Peaks near Banafora. These curiously eroded rock formations dispersed among the terrain give a wonderful visual experience, almost on par with the Hunan province rock pillars in China. But adjacent to the falls is another strangely eroded rock formation with stone ledges carved in an almost ovular fashion. Now, Burkina Faso's land may be on the brink of surviving, but the people sure know how to look good in the process. Okay, just in case if you didn't get it from the beginning, the people of Burkina Faso are called Burkinabes. Got it? Good. Burkina Faso has about 17.5 million people. The ethnic majority at about half of the entire population identify as Mossi from the Mossi tribe. About 10% are Fulani, Lobis, Mandes, and Bobos. Each make up about 7% of the population each, and the rest of the population is comprised of about 60 different tribes and people groups. Faith-wise, somewhere around 60% of the country follows Malakite Sunni Islam, heavily influenced on the doctrines of Sufism, whereas about 30% of the country identifies as Christian. The remainder typically follows some form of animism and traditional beliefs. The country's official language is French, however there are 3 regional languages that exist. More, mostly spoken by the Mosi, Mandinka, mostly spoken in the west by the Bobo, and Bambara, mostly spoken in the north close to Mali. Although Fulfulde, the language of the Fulani, is also widely spoken, it doesn't really encompass any specific region as they're kind of widely spread out throughout the country, so they don't really get a regional recognition. Now here's the thing, Burkina Faso is a pretty low-income country. Most of the people live off of $1 a day, and the country depends heavily off of aid from the IMF and World Bank. It's also one of the countries with the highest birth rates, as women typically on average have about 6 children each, which in return has exploded the population almost 5-fold in the past half century. Now in order to understand Burkina Faso, you have to kind of understand what has happened to it and what is happening to it today. In the shortest condensed way I can put this, shortly after the French left and they gained independence in 1960, the country got a president who was later usurped by a revolution led by Thomas Sankara, who acted on Marxist ideologies, often referred to as the Che Guevara of Africa. Sankara was then assassinated by another guy named Blaise Compaoré. Eventually he was taken over by the storming of the parliament by youth revolts. Compaoré resigned and fled the country, and the ruins of parliament are now a tourist attraction. After 2 weeks of intense negotiations with political and military leaders, the country elected retired diplomat Michel Kafando to act as an interim president until November 2015, when elections will determine a new leader. So as we speak right now, Burkina Faso is in a state of legislative limbo. In a few months, we'll find out what Burkina Faso will decide and what direction.
Okay, so obviously this has been some time since then.
Right.
I mean, almost, a decade, right? So let us know what's going on today. We have done a video, I believe, of this, of going to like their markets or something.
I believe so.
It was with the lady going to their market. So let us know how things are today.
Yes, 100%.
They'll head into. As we mentioned before, there are many tribes in Burkina Faso. However, the largest one, the Mosi tribe, has historically been the predominant ethnic group in the region. Mosis, like other tribes found in the region, have a heavily equestrian culture, as they are sometimes referred to as the cowboys of Africa, which may explain the huge profusion of horse race betting shops found in the country. French horse races are broadcasted live, and Burkinabes love betting on them. This gave them a huge advantage over their southern neighbors, as they were even able to effectively fight off the Atlantic slave traders very well in the early 16th century, and remained intact for over 400 years until finally the kingdom was taken over by the French at the end of the 19th century. The cool thing is, according to Mosi tradition, the highest position in Mosi society is the emperor. The emperor, referred to as the Mogonaba, and the current one being Zomwogbo. He is recognized as an authoritative figure and holds substantial power and influence in the country to this day. These days, rugby is actually a little more popular than soccer, especially since Fulgence Ouedraogo was drafted into Montpellier Hérault RC rugby team. He's kind of like a local here, and since then, Burkinabes have swapped kicking for tackling. Sounds like every roommate situation I've been in. Now let's find out who else Burkina Faso likes to kick, tackle, or hug.
Okay,
when it comes to
friend zone. Okay, so
being
obviously
landlocked,
Ghana.
yeah, they're landlocked, so
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. I'm curious to know who are their like main resource imports are. Like who they're like who they share with the most, you know what I'm saying?
You think they still have a good relationship with France? Well, yeah, obviously with the races, huh? I would say
Potentially.
France.
I could give it a go.
Yeah, I would say their
give it a
friends
go.
are France, Niger, Mali, and Ghana.
Yeah, those two. Yeah,
Ghana.
yeah, I would go with that too.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Let's see.
Friends, Burkina Faso is kind of like, nous ne sommes pas nécessairement amis, juste simplement parce que nous parlons français. That being said, Burkina Faso does kind of get along with, or at least tolerates, all of their immediate neighbors and have multilateral agreements, but they aren't exactly yippee-skippy about all of them either. Historically, they have had kind of a lot of conflicts with almost every single one of them. Nonetheless, it's kind of interesting because Burkina Faso does have kind of okay relations with the EU, even though former President Compaoré has been heavily criticized over the decades, and yet chooses to acknowledge underdog areas like Kosovo and Taiwan, effectively cutting off ties with the People's Republic of China and Serbia. Libya is a huge ally. Both Sankara and Compaoré were both close friends of Gaddafi, and eventually both countries became founding members of the Community of Sahel-Sahara States, an organization that aims to establish free trade in the area. Interestingly enough, Algeria is actually not part of that club, and it all had to do with some kind of political dispute, yada yada yada. When it comes to their best friends, however, more or less they might begrudgingly say the Ivory Coast and Ghana, even though they've had some drama with the Ivory Coast during the recent civil war, as they were accused of supporting rebel fighters, they still remained the largest trade partners and were at one point the same country under French rule. Ghana has established numerous ties with Burkina Faso, and today they have regular high-level consultations and cooperation commissions, and they even share joint military exercises with each other to encourage diplomacy. In conclusion, Burkina Faso is a land ridden with kings, cowboys, and cotton and conflict, and right now they're in a very tense moment of transition. Burkina Faso. And that's kind of where the camera ran out of memory space. Sorry. Burundi is coming up next.
Okay.
We deal with it, bro. We understand.
Right.
Man, so much more to dive into. I feel like that's the tip of an iceberg when learning. You know what I'm saying? So we'd love to learn a lot more. Definitely about the rugby and the sports with the horse racing and all, you know. That's interesting. I like that as well.
Yeah. So y'all send in some more Burkina Faso videos. We do know that they speak French, so as long as it has English subtitles, it's fine. Send it in. All right.
100%.
So we hope you guys enjoyed this video with us. Like this video, subscribe, turn on the post notification bell. We have enabled our super thanks if you like to support the channel that way, as well as our reaction request form is in our description box below. We'll see you soon.
Peace.